Hi guys. So resumes are sort of gateways between the life you have right now and the life that you want in the UK. Now, you could be supremely talented and brilliant at your job, but unless you know the hiring manager personally, which is really unlikely, your resume is your representative out there. It is supposed to build your case. Think of this. When you meet a friend's friend for the first time, you'll obviously introduce yourself. But now think, if you meet a potential client for the first time, are you going to introduce yourself in the same way? No, right? Well, for starters, they wouldn't have the kind of time that you'd need to explain all the details of your life, right? What I'm trying to say is how we interact with people honestly changes depending on who you're interacting with. So if that's the case, your resume, which is your representative, should also change basis who you're talking to, right? There are some things it should have, there are some things it shouldn't have, which is why today we're talking about the top things you must absolutely remove from your resume right now to land that job in the UK. So there are certain things that are absolute red flags in a CV, and they are almost certain to get your CV rejected. So that effectively means that you might actually lose the battle before it's even begun. So if you've been trying to land a job in the UK unsuccessfully for a while now, ask yourself if you are guilty of some of these mistakes. Now, a really common mistake a lot of people make is including too much information in their CVs, and usually in the form of long paragraphs. Now, I understand that you might want to communicate a lot of things, and often we think that if we take out this small bit of information, this might have been the bit of information that helped us land the job. So obviously you're resistant to taking out that information, but here's the challenge I'm going to put forth before you. Long paragraphs are A, really difficult to read, and B, consume too much time, and C, they make you guilty of oversharing. Now, take a look at these two instances and tell me which one is easier for you to read. What you need to remember is that recruiting managers are also people doing jobs, and on a daily basis they have to sift through 50 or hundreds of CVs, and honestly they have deadlines as well, just like all the rest of us. Do you really think they have the time to sit and read elaborate paragraphs? By adding all of these long paragraphs, you're not doing them any favors, and you're certainly not doing yourself any either. Now, here's what you should do instead. First, use bullet points, please. Secondly, if you have a bullet point, make sure it doesn't go beyond 1 or 2 lines at max. Keep it short, avoid sentences, do not overshare, and keep it as concise as possible. Now, another mistake a lot of people are guilty of is using acronyms. And the challenge is that very often these acronyms are specific to your workplace or your industry, which means that there's a possibility that the recruiter who's looking at your CV, especially if they're not from the same industry, is not familiar with these terms. Even worse, if an ATS system is looking at your CV, it might entirely skip your CV because it is not looking for keywords and it doesn't recognize these keywords. So even though you've put in the work and you've done exactly what they're looking for that role, the system might just skip your CV entirely. The same goes for buzzwords that are again common in your industry, but either the ATS system doesn't know it or the recruiting manager doesn't know it. There's no point in adding them. So here's what you should do instead. Avoid acronyms, avoid buzzwords. It might cost you a few more words to explain it. It might be a little lengthier because of that, but it is absolutely worth it. Now, the next mistake a lot of people are guilty of is adding unrelated work experience. So you've probably put in the work over the years, you spent a considerable amount of time at doing a particular job, you're probably really good at it, so naturally your first inclination will be to include it in your resume. But what you need to do is ask yourself, how is this information relevant to the role that I'm applying for? And B, by sharing this, will this increase my chances of landing the job or not? If the answer is no, and you need to take a hard, good look at this point, be brutally honest, because there's no point in you fooling yourself, right? You're the only one who loses. If the information is not relevant, no matter how much time you've spent doing it, no matter how many accolades you've won for it, if it is not relevant to the role that you are applying for, take it off. So here's what you should do instead. Start from the very top and go all the way till the bottom of your CV with a fine-tooth comb. Look for any information that might not be relevant to either the role or the job you're applying for, and if it doesn't add value, please take it out. Now, here's the thing. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now and click on the bell icon for notifications. And here's the thing. If you are looking to move to the UK and if you have been struggling for a bit and you need that extra help, you can always sign up for my course, which gives you all of the granular details on how you can move to the UK, how you can land that job, where to apply, what mistakes to avoid, and all of the 9 yards. So if you're interested, I will leave the link in the description below. All you need to do is tap. Now tell me this. Why are you adding your full address to the CV? I mean, what are you expecting? Do you expect the hiring manager to send you flowers? That doesn't happen, by the way. So then what is the point of putting your whole address? I understand for some roles, especially if you're applying outside the country, some people might want to know which city you're based out of or which country you're based out of. But no one needs to know anything beyond that. So if your CV has details of your house number, your building number, your flat number, please take it off. It doesn't help in any way. So here's what you should do instead. Now the next biggest mistake is something I have been guilty of for a very long time. So it's honestly a little shameful for me, but it's really important we talk about it. For the longest time, while applying for jobs, I used my Hotmail address. Now let me give you a little background. I created a Hotmail address when I was in school, and I couldn't find a Gmail address which had my full name. So I just continued using the Hotmail address, and one day my husband happened to look at my CV that I was about to share with a recruiter and had a good laugh at my expense. That's when I realized how outdated it was and that the recruiter would probably be laughing as well. So I immediately went and created a Gmail account one way or the other and have been using that ever since. Now, please don't be like me. Here's what you should do instead. If you have an email ID which is neither an Outlook ID nor a Gmail ID, please go create one and please start using that in your CVs because it looks a lot more updated and in like with times, and B, a lot more professional. And please, for God's sake, don't add your corporate email by mistake. Trust me, I have seen people do this. I have received CVs with that. They've made an obvious typo and they've not bothered to look at it. Now, the sixth mistake a lot of people make is adding their hobbies and interests. Now, to put it mildly, stop it. Okay, seriously, let's be logical for a moment now. Assume you like playing a musical instrument, assume you like playing the guitar, and you're applying for the role of a project manager. How does your ability to play the guitar affect your ability to do your job as a project manager in any way? If you can play the guitar well, does that mean you're going to meet your project's deadlines? No, absolutely not. So basically, there's no connection between the two. And while you might think that the hiring manager wants to know more about your personality, not really. They don't want to know your hobbies. They are going to judge your personal character. That's going to be when they have a face-to-face interview or the first round of interviews with you. They're not going to judge you basis whether you play the guitar or read books. It really doesn't matter. Now, however, if your hobbies or your interests are related to the role you are applying for, you might want to reconsider. So for instance, if you're applying for a finance role, but you like dabbling with crypto at the side, that's absolutely something you can consider adding in because it actually is related to the job you're applying for and it shows that you have an interest in it beyond your work as well. So by all means, you might, if you have space on your resume, want to add that one line in. Now, this is in no way me indicating that you should invest in crypto. I'm not making that suggestion. Now, here's what you should do instead. Again, go through your resume and ensure that unless you have absolutely nothing to fill in your CV and your refresher, or you're looking for an internship, please take out the entire hobbies and interests section because it's not helping your career unless it's extremely relevant to the role that you are applying for. So then the biggest question at the end of this is, what should you actually be putting in your resume? How do you go about making it? What should you include? Oh, well, if you need all of the answers to that, all you need to do is watch this video.